I got an email a couple of years ago, had an interesting story, and a story that was fictional, but story I'll share with you real quickly is about a Sunday morning worship at a large church with about 2,000 people, and masked gunmen entered the church and proclaimed to everyone there that if you want to stay and take a bullet for Christ, you can. But if you want to leave, you can leave. Choir left, deacons left, large portion of the church left, and what was left when it was all said and done was about 20 members of this 2,000 member church. And at that time, the government took off their mask and said, "Preacher, we've gotten rid of the hypocrites. You can start the service now." Now, that's a fictional story. It's kind of humorous, isn't it? It's actually kind of sad if you think about it. But it points us to a big question about our faith. And the reason I told it was because it points us in this direction. To ask this question is how firm is our faith? What group would you have been in if that had been a real life scenario? Would you have headed for the door, or would you have said, "No, I'm a Christian, I'll stay"? That's a tough decision, isn't it? That's one of those life's defining moments, isn't it? Where you have to kind of choose to which path you will go. Life's filled with those things, isn't it? Things that shape us and that kind of define us and kind of reach down to our core and tell us who we are. Some are superficial, some are deep down inside. You know, we have dates that stand out in our memory of dates that defined us and shaped us and moved us, such as graduation day. You know, when you graduated high school, probably one of the most defining moments of your life. Where are you going to go from here? I got this diploma, I'm going to stick it on the wall. Where do I go from here? Freedom, right? Freedom. I can leave my parents' house. I've done everything I want to, but do I want to? You know, do I really want to? You know, it sounded good a couple of years ago, but now it doesn't sound so good anymore, right? There's food here. I'd like to eat, you know. Or when we graduate from college, the same type thing. Or when we wed, you know, we choose a spouse and we go out and we get married. It's kind of a defining moment for us, isn't it? Or we go out, you know, sometimes it's being successful in business. We go out and we accomplish things in business. We climb the business ladder. We get to the top. You know, we're the CEO, or we're a top manager, and now people are underneath us. I'm the boss, right? That kind of defines us, those promotions that we get. Sometimes they're not so happy. Sometimes defining moments aren't so happy, right? Funerals are defining moments. They're not happy, right? Battling an illness is a defining moment, but it's not a happy time, right? But it still speaks to who you are. And it shapes you and it moves you. And though a lot of times the things that we you know, gather, the trophies we gather, or the landmarks in our life that we celebrate or share with other people, right? We put that plaque, that high school or college diploma up on the wall so people will know what? I'm a graduate. I graduated, I'm educated, you know. You know, we want people to know who we are. You know, that we've accomplished something. There is, I'm joking, of course, but there is something to be said for those who are able to go through and achieve a college diploma. Or, you know, that trophy from 30 years ago when you hit that winning shot to win the tournament, you know, but you still keep it around so you can tell that story, right? Yeah, that's when, you know, 4 seconds left, they threw me the ball, and, you know, because it's shared with others. It defines who we are, right? It gives us that moment, that defining moment. But I would submit to you that a lot of the most important defining moments in our life don't really come from the things that we share with other people. But they more come from our relationship with God. Those defining moments in our faith walk are more important than any trophy or any diploma that I'll ever receive. When I get to heaven, God's not going to say, "You still got that trophy? Can I see it? You know, can I touch it?" No. No. He doesn't care about that, right? He's not going to care about that. You know, defining moments are those times when we have to make choices, and sometimes they're tough choices, right? About who we're going to be and whose we are and who we serve. And what will the outcome of this particular moment in time be for us? You know, when I talk about that, I'll always remind you, how many of you remember the movie Braveheart? Did you ever see that movie? How many? So you know what I'm talking about. That famous scene, right? Where the Scottish, the peasants are on one side and they're standing there and they're looking at this British army across the way, and it's big. And it's well armed. And they know they're well trained. And they're outmanned. And they're sitting there saying, I'm not doing this. So I'm not going to fight so these guys can get some more lands. I'm out of here. And who arrives but Will Wallace, right? Not Reverend Will Wallace, although I'm sure he gives a good speech too. I've heard he did really well. But this is a different William Wallace. But William Wallace arrives on his horse, right? And I don't have a horse, and I don't have any hair or war paint. But those words that he says, are inspiring to these guys. He says, they're saying, we're not staying, we'll die. We're not going to go out there and get killed. And he says, he says, and I can't do it like he does. He said, you stay and fight, you may die. He said, or leave and you will live for a little while. He said, but many days from now, when you're laying in your bed, old men, he said, what would you give to come back to this moment? Would you give all the days from here to there for that one chance? That one chance to come and tell your enemies, you can take my life, but you can't take my freedom. And everybody, they go crazy. At this point in the movie, everybody goes crazy and they go into battle and they win. But what I'm saying is he challenges them to make it in a defining moment, doesn't he? He says you can choose to live or die, but there's consequences both ways, right? What will you choose today? As we enter the story of Esther today, we find her at a defining moment. Esther's a great book. It's a great read if you want to read a book in the Bible. It should have been a Lifetime movie. It really should. It's got a little bit of everything in it. But I can't go through the whole book because we don't have that kind of time. To be honest with you. I do need to give you a little bit of history. Esther is, at this point, is a Persian queen. She's a Jewish girl. She hasn't identified to the king that she's Jewish, so she has that hidden identity. And she's faced with a dilemma. Let me give you a little history, and I know history, right? I don't want to hear history. Just tell me the story. Let me give you a little history, though. At least I didn't say, let me teach you some math. Look at the bright side. But let me give you a little history. I'm sorry, man. Amy, I'm sorry. But let me give you a little bit of history. What's happened is the king of Persia had a queen, and he had this big party, lasted like 6 months, and at the end they had a banquet, and at that banquet he wanted to parade his beautiful queen in front of everybody, and he sent for her, and she said, not going to happen, I ain't doing it. And he said, and God, people said, you can't let her do that. He said, yeah, you're right. So he banishes the queen. Okay? So now he's by himself, and he's looking for a new queen, and the king's lonely. So his advisors, they're so smart, so we're going to just bring all the beautiful girls from the kingdom, and you can just choose you one. It's like a beauty pageant, right? So they bring people in day after day after day. For months, they bring women in. Finally, Esther, somebody thinks they bring Esther. And he goes, you're the winner. Just like this. You win. So she must have really been a looker. That's what I'm saying. He's seen the most beautiful girls in the kingdom, but here's Esther. She comes in, you're the queen. And he makes her the queen. Now, every story has to have a villain, right? And in this case, his name is Haman. Haman is the prime minister. He's right underneath the king. He's a powerful man. He's a dangerous man. And he enjoys all the luxuries of being in that position of prime minister. Today it would be like the limo, and the bodyguards and all that stuff, and people like recognizing him. And he likes that part especially well. He likes that people recognize that he's got power. And as a matter of fact, it's a law. It's a law there that you have to bow down to him. When he enters your presence, you're supposed to bow. And so people are doing that, except for this one guy named Mordecai. Now Mordecai is Esther's uncle, and he raised Esther. Esther was an orphan, and he raised her. And he's a public official, but he's a small public official. He's not way up there in the king's court, but he is a public official. But he won't bow. He's not doing it. He's Jewish, and he's not bowing to anybody. And so that really makes Haman mad. I mean, really mad. I mean, like road rage mad. And so he goes and he comes up with a plan where he's not only going to get rid of Mordecai, he's going to get rid of all the Jewish people throughout the kingdom, everywhere. And he goes and he presents this plan to the king. And he tells the king, there's these people, and they got their own set of laws, and they got their own ways and stuff, and they don't obey your laws. He said, you know what would really be good, king? If you sent out a decree to get rid of, pick a day, and we just get rid of all these Jewish people. He said, I feel so strong about it, I'll put 10,000 pieces of silver in your treasury if you do it. And the king thought about it. He said, that's a nice purse, 10,000 pieces of silver. But he said no to the bribe. But he said yes to the decree. And he sends out a decree where all the Jewish people are going to die on Adar 13th. Now, Adar is not a month for us, but it's about a year away from the time that he sends out this decree. And he said, well, why would you send out a decree for a year later? Well, they didn't have text messages back then, and they didn't have email. They didn't even have snail mail. I mean, this went out by courier to all of the kingdom. So one guy would ride out on a horse and he'd declare it. The next guy would get on a horse and he'd go to the next community, and then to where it would reach all of Persia. Was going to take a little while. It was a very big kingdom. They were going to kill all the Jewish people. Now, that made all the Jewish people happy, right? No, not at all. This is a Holocaust about to take place here. And they were sad. And so they put on their sackcloth and ashes and prayed and fasted, because they knew the end was what? It's coming, right? The king is going to have them put to death. The 13th, Adar 13th, it's the end for you. Well, Mordecai goes to the fringe of the palace, and he dresses in sackcloth and covers himself in ash, and Esther noticed, and she sends somebody, go see what is wrong with my uncle. But she's in the palace. She don't know what's going on. She hadn't heard word of what was happening. She had no idea what was about to take place, or was going to take place on 13th. Go see what's going on with my uncle. So he sends word back. Now, it seems easy enough that Esther would go before the king, right, and say, look, you're about to kill my people. Here's the problem. You didn't just go up to the king. And the king didn't summon you. You didn't appear before the king without the risk of being killed. In other words, if I walked into the king's presence and I had not been summoned there, you'd have to get a new preacher next Sunday. Because I wouldn't be here. I'd be executed. Okay? So what would happen is even the queen could not come into the presence of the king without being asked or risk being put to death. Kind of risky there. Right? So here she's been put with this proposition. We need you to go talk to the king about killing your people. And she's like, but I could get killed. I could die. And she sends that message back. She says, I just can't go to the king. She says, I can't just go to the king. He has to call me in over a month. I can't just appear before him and give him this message. He can behead me. He can have me killed. And Mordecai sends the message, the scripture that we read today. And he basically tells us, what makes you think that you would be spared? You're Jewish. What makes you think that you'd be spared? Not only that, if it doesn't come from you, it'll come from somewhere else. Because God will provide the message. But who's not to say that in your royal place, this place that brought you from obscurity, the events that brought you from obscurity to being the queen and having this life of luxury, who's to say that those things didn't happen for a moment such as this? That at this time that you have been prepared and brought to this place for just such an event, for just a time as these. And Esther has to make a choice, doesn't she? You ever been in a place where you had to make a choice? Right or wrong? You know? When life puts something before you you weren't ready for, and you have to make a decision. Sometimes you get to think about it. Sometimes it's spur of the moment. The decision has to be made nonetheless. And she makes the right decision. She said, I'll do it. But I want you to do this. I want you to get all the people, all the Jewish people together. I want you to have them fast for 3 days and 3 nights. The custom of fasting was you usually would fast during the day, but not at night. I want you to fast for 3 days and 3 nights. And I'm going to do the same, me and my maids. And what fasting is meant to do is what? Draw you closer to God, right? That everybody be drawn closer to God. And I'm pretty sure this included prayer, but it doesn't say it includes prayer. But fasting usually includes a time of prayer. Strange thing about the book of Esther, when you read it, if you ever go and read it, it doesn't mention God not one time. It doesn't mention prayer not one time. Kind of a strange thing, isn't it, that it would even be in the Bible. But there's a lesson in Esther, and a lesson we need to learn. But, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. Just a second. I wanted to point that out to you because that's an important thing. So she calls for this fasting. Now, I think that's a good example of not mentioning God, but acknowledging God, right? Would you say that's fair? If you're fasting to somebody, right? Yes? Would you be in agreement? Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So, and it included a prayer and fasting, so that means you were praying to somebody. But there's no direct mention of it. Anyway, after the 3 days, she goes, she says, I'll do it. And if I die, I die. If I die, I die. That's pretty brave, isn't it? If you searched your heart, would you be willing to do that? What if you just had to do it just for the people in this building right here? I'll do it. I'll step up to that gunman. I don't mind pushing Pam, but I don't know if I'm in the way, but I don't know if I would do it myself. But she's called to that moment. And she answers. And she walks. She gets dressed up. Pretty as she can be. She's already pretty, but she puts on her best gown, jewels. And she walks into the presence of the king. Not knowing if she's going to be kissed or killed. The king looks up. And he sees her, and a smile comes across his face, and he raises his scepter. Thank you. I was about to lose it. Scepter. And which means that she gets to stay. He goes, what can I do for you, my beautiful queen? What can I, anything you want up to half of my kingdom, I'll give you. What can I give you? And she hadn't planned that far. How many of us step out on faith and all sometimes we don't know the plan, but we just step out? She didn't have the words. She didn't know what to say. She said, how about I prepare a dinner? I'd like to prepare a dinner, home-cooked meal for you and your prime minister. Oh, that'd be great. So she goes and she prepares the meal. They come, eat, and he goes, okay, enough wine. Had some wine. He said, okay, enough with the wine. I said, what can I give you? What can I really give you? She goes, how about another meal tomorrow? Again, she had no answer, right? Sometimes God leads us to a place and He doesn't give us all the answers all at one time. Sometimes we got to take little baby steps, Sometimes we just, I don't know where this is going, but I'm just going to keep going a little bit at a time, and knowing God's leading me here, and knowing He's going to give me what I need when I need it. And so, okay, we're great. Haman goes home. He's feeling good. Another meal with the king, and home-cooked meal with the king and the queen. This is a power thing. He sees Mordecai, and guess what happens? Mordecai don't bow. Makes him mad. He's really mad. And I don't have time to go into the whole story, so I'm not going to go into it. But he comes back the next day. He's been on getting Mordecai even worse than he had been before. But he gets back to the thing, and what happens is Esther tells him the story. He goes, okay, now what? We've eaten the second meal. What can I tell you? Esther has a story. She tells him that somebody's out to kill her and her people. And she identifies Haman as the one who's going to do it. The king's furious. I mean, he leaves the room. You know, it's that walk out the door, slam the door. You ever walked out and somebody slammed the door? Have you ever done that? That's how mad the king is. I did that one time when the door got stuck. It was embarrassing. But that's a different story. That was a long time ago. Anyway, he walked out. He's furious. And he's thinking. And Haman knows he's in trouble. He knows it. And he goes, and the queen's sitting there, and he bows down and puts his head across the queen's lap and is begging her for his life. You know, please, please, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were Jewish, and I didn't know it was you, you know, I'm so sorry. And the king comes back in. Well, that don't look too good. And now the king's mad. So he orders the execution. He thinks Haman's assaulting his queen, so he has Haman executed. I told you this would be a good Lifetime movie, didn't I? It's got all kinds of twists to the plot and everything. And he wants to do something to fix his edit, his proclamation that went out. The problem is that you can't change it. Once the king sends it out, he can't take it back. He can't say, I changed my mind. He doesn't get a redo on it. So what he did is he sent out a proclamation saying the Jewish people on that day can defend themselves and fight back to make sure they maintain their lives. And nobody wanted to mess with that. So basically it didn't take place. It was basically a redo without having a redo. But basically he spared the lives of the Jewish people. So this little girl, this little Jewish orphan girl raised by her uncle who won a beauty pageant, gets to save the whole Jewish nation. I mean, tell me that's not a Lifetime story. I mean, that's good stuff. I don't know who would produce it, but that's a good movie right there. What about your story? So, well, preacher, you know, ain't nobody coming in here with no gun. Nobody's going to come in here and make me make a decision like that about whether I would defend Christ or not, or I would represent Christ. I mean, that's not going to happen. That's fairy tale stuff. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could happen. Somebody'd have to get a magic to find out how to get here, but it could happen, right? But probably not. You're probably right. You're probably right. You know, some of the tests for our faith don't come in the big events, the big show events, where somebody comes in and puts a gun to your head. They come in the smallness of life. They come in your daily walk. As you're walking in faith, you encounter events that define you. When you come across a homeless person, how you react defines who you are. It defines who you serve, and whose child you are. When you see someone in need, how you react is your defining moment. When you have the church at need and you don't answer that call, it's a defining moment for you. Every time that God calls you to something, to walk in His footsteps. Now, when I say walk in His footsteps, I mean, how would Christ react in that situation? How does Christ react to those in need? He meets them where they're in their need, and He helps them, doesn't He? Time and time and time again in the Gospels, you see that, where Jesus meets those in need, those who are outcasts, those who others would shun, and He embraces them. And He leaves them in a better place. Now the question is, for me, is that do I do the same thing in my daily walk? You see, each of us have a walk, and each of us have a story. Now, we may not have won a beauty contest. We may not be the Queen of Persia, but where we are, we can do little things that affect humanity. How we treat others. Do we treat them with kindness and grace and mercy and forgiveness? Or do we choose the other route? Do we treat the world with unforgiveness, unkindness, hatred? You see, it's a choice, and it's your choice. I can't make that choice for you. It's between you and your Creator. But I would encourage you to choose your Creator over the world. To choose forgiveness over unforgiveness. To choose love over hate. Faith over fear. To walk in a way that's not pleasing to the world or conforms to the world, but one in which you follow Christ, your Lord and Savior. Remember, God loved you enough to send His Son to come and live and die for you, each and every one of you, that you can have eternal life. He gives you second by second, hour by hour, a day. Maybe it's just today. Maybe tomorrow we don't wake up. But what do you do with that day? The challenge is not whether you'll conquer Britain or not whether you'll stand up to a gunman or not, but will you, like Esther, choose to walk in faith? I pray that you will. I hope that you will. But the final word is up to you. What will you choose? I beg you, choose faith. And all God's people said, Amen.